Guys, we have learned a lot by starting a couple of podcasts,
Yes.
and we want to pass on some nuggets today to you because podcasting is hot, man. If you're thinking about marketing your business, podcasting is one of the most effective ways to go. So
Yes.
we're going to give you some nuggets on how you can hack getting a podcast for your business. That's coming up. Welcome to the Bite Size Marketing Hack Podcast, where you get the confidence to hack your marketing 5 minutes at a time.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Rashawn.
And I'm Mark.
Today on Bite Size Marketing Hacks, we're going to talk about what we've learned about starting a podcast, what we've learned about starting a podcast. Ooh, I'm excited about this because the first time I ever even jumped on a podcast was your podcast ever.
Yeah.
And I was super excited about that, bro. One, I knew I wouldn't necessarily be on a video, which I think we may even did a video.
We did a little video, yeah.
But I was excited because it was the experience of like, dude, I'm going to be able to share like my voice and also my values and my message to your world, to your audience, and to, you know, people who may be impacted by it.
Yeah.
But I never knew years later I would want to invest this much more in it. But let's talk about this, Mark.
Let's talk about it, and just to like capture some of you guys' attention on this, because some of you are like, well, I don't have a podcast, or I haven't given a thought to that. I think you should consider it. Like right now in the digital space, there's a lot of noise. And so what you want to think in marketing is to look for those opportunities where it's less saturated.
Yeah.
And right now, the podcasting space, it is not as saturated. There's a few 100,000 podcasts, which sounds like a lot, but you compare that to YouTube channels where there's multiple millions.
So true.
And so there's a lot more opportunity on podcasts than there is even on YouTube right now.
YouTube, so true. And our friend is riding by right now. So
we do this right by a train,
yes,
man. So.
Saturated. As you're talking about the world, everything being saturated across the net. But yeah, I love what you're saying, Mark, because it's so true. How do we sort of, stand out, in our market, in our business, when it's so saturated? I think that podcast, that voice, the intro, which we should talk about, the hook in the intro, that makes a huge difference too. That takes it even to another level.
So I learned this doing YouTube videos. I got a YouTube channel, and I just honed my craft over years, like making a lot of videos that are in the graveyard. They never made it onto the channel, man. Just practiced a lot. Amen. But I learned from some of the influencers that I followed on YouTube that you can actually up the length of time in which people will consume your content, because you want to keep people on the podcast episode or on the YouTube video by creating a hook up front.
Yes.
You want to encapsulate what is this episode about in a few seconds before you throw out your intro.
Yeah, so true.
Add that little piece in as you're starting your podcast. This episode is about this, and it can be just really literal what it's about. What is the nugget they're going to get out of this, and then actually talk about the content. So that's one nugget that we've learned.
So true. And I think parallel with that is, really when you're starting it, make sure you're passionate. It's a whole nother thing to, try to figure out what your podcast should be about, like what is specifically your thing. But make sure you're passionate about whatever you're doing. Make sure, it literally just pours out of you, out of your life, the DNA of who you are. And because I know that makes all the difference, especially with podcasts. You want to exude
people should feel
your joy, for what you do. And because it's just going to gravitate more people who are just like you. And I think it's so important. And audio, I said Audible, like the book Audible. Because I love Audible too. But audio on podcasts is so consumable too.
It is.
You can eat it up all day long. Some of my favorite podcasters, and people who do podcasts, I listen to all the time, the interviews, and it gives me a insight to all my favorite people I follow that they may not share on their Twitter, their Instagram, their Facebook, but I actually get to hear unique perspectives on every different podcast and interview that I listen to.
So to throw out a stat for you guys on that, people who have done some studies with podcasting have found that users will consume 80% of podcast episodes versus video content or other forms of content. They might hop off and you might get that click-through rate where they're going somewhere else. But on podcasts, users tend to listen to about 80% of your episodes. So it's a good format to be in for getting people into your content. So
I love that. Think about that too as well. Product placement within a podcast, even monetizing a podcast. These are things you can actually work towards in the future. But here's the thing, you have to get started. You just have to get started.
Have to start. Let's see. Oh yeah, one other thing that we were going to talk about today is bringing in guests.
Yeah. Love that, man. Here's another thing. I think it goes back to one of our earlier episodes where we talked about how we basically market and extend intentionally our marketing platform.
Yes.
So for instance, I'm very intentional about, bringing a new guest on every single episode. Every Scriptures and Stories podcast is the podcast I started like as a personal influencer brand.
Yep.
But what I do is bring a new person on every single episode to share their story.
That's good.
One, it allows me to connect with that individual one-on-one and pour into their life. But two, it gets me access to all their influence, like their friends, their family, to hopefully serve them one day and things like that. But parallel with that, I always have like an interview as well with maybe, more of a larger influencer or, someone who's a leader and bring them on and also get insights for them. So I'm sort of like, on both ends.
It's good.
Winning as far as like networking and marketing.
It's good.
With amazing people that I'm working with. So I would say encourage you guys to bring in people onto your podcast as well.
Yep. And so just to encourage you, hey, if you're feeling intimidated by the podcasting format or starting or creating a podcast, I think the biggest tip that we've got today is just start.
Yeah.
And you can hone your craft over time and get better audio equipment and all those sorts of things. But man, just getting in the game, because it is an open, a good opportunity, a marketing opportunity right now to have a podcast. So get in there and have a long-term vision of investing into this over time. And as the podcasting platform space grows, you're going to grow with it.
Yes. And that's the key. Just dive in and glide out. Yeah, so the world, good. Reach your people.
I think that's it for today. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And visit us at bitesizemarketinghacks.com for more resources and episodes that will help you hack your marketing 5 minutes at a time.